Here today on what we actually have under the tarp. Yeah, just let me know what you think and we'll just go from there. So that's the engine. I picked that up for 500 bucks from a friend of mine. It's a Tower powered 6-cylinder inline 6. That's why it's so tall. Mercury 90 horse. I've been told that this motor is not enough to push this boat around, but that was the same guy that basically told me that it wasn't worth fixing this boat. That's my company name. Anyways, let's do the reveal. Let's just get right to it. 1987 Tempest. She is a beaut. Look at that glass. Got this boat for free from a friend on Blind Bay Buy and Sell. He bought it for the trailer because his had a broken axle stub. Took it off, threw it in his backyard, but then realized, hey, that thing's not in too bad a shape hull-wise, so we might as well put it up for free. Only problem, there's no engine, no leg. Had all the controls, but the steering wheel was so loose that I had to take it off. I'm going to probably have to get a new steering column, but that's no big deal. So that's all the work we're doing right there, is solidifying that. I used to have a 3.8 OMC engine. Oh, did you see those racing stripes? That's what I'm talking about. If you don't have racing stripes in your boat, you're not going to go fast. Those stripes right there are the reason why I'm restoring this boat. Because this thing is like a nice old classic car. It wants to go. She said, give me racing stripes so down the road when it needs a restoration, someone will have the common sense to say, hey, this thing's actually worth restoring. So the fuel tank goes right there. There's a little bit of rot. That 3/4 inch board was wet in this area. I shared in the last video because the water would pool right here and then it would drain down. And then the same thing on the other side. So basically we just cut that board out, cut all the fiberglass out the bottom. We're going to put a new 3/4 inch board, probably some 2x2s underneath to screw to. Re-fiberglass along the bottom. Cut a little bit out of here to see how bad this board is, because that's where we're putting the anchor bolts for the drop down brackets for the rear transom support. Somewhere in this area we're going to drill a hole, like cut a hole out there into the fiberglass to see what's behind there. And if we have to, we know the fiberglass is super solid on both sides, but if the wood behind is rotten because the water drained down, then we probably won't cut anything out, but we'll just drill a hole back here, about 3 or 6 inch hole, inspection hole, and then we can do anchor bolts through the fiberglass and maybe put a plate on the inside, like a 3/4 inch wood or just a big flat washer or whatever, or steel plate to anchor these down supports from the inside of the boat. So that'll give us plenty of strength, we figure, for the rear transom. And yeah, that's one project for today, is to cut out all that wood. Or sorry, yeah, cut out a little bit more wood in this area, maybe like about 10 inch square. Replace that. That's underneath the bench anyway, so it's not a big deal. It's not like you're going to be walking on it where you notice a difference in the floor. This engine, or this boat, had the tank replaced, we figure, because that looks like it had all been cut out. This was just a nice sheet of plywood to begin with, I'm pretty sure, and then they cut it out to replace the tank, whether it was rusted or hit, maybe they wrecked it or something, I'm not sure. But there's no sign of damage on the bottom of the boat on the inside, on these fiberglass sections. So we're going to replace that wood, make sure it's really solid and secure for walking on, put 2x2s on top of the fuel tank for the new sheet of plywood to sit in. They didn't do it at the front, so you could feel it flex a lot there, but we'll make sure it's super nice and smooth, and we might put a 1/4 inch sheet of plywood right over top and then recarpet it. And so this is the fuel tank. We're going to clean that out, get the old gas out of it. I'm going to reseal all these from the inside. If you look under here, you'll see the anchor, the side anchors, no, sorry, the back anchors are right in that area. We're going to seal those on each side, one over there too. And then there's one in the front. I already resealed my new fuel cap. That's all good. Then there's one in the front here for anchoring the boat to the front of the trailer. And pretty much other than that, see all these sweet stickers I got? Best money I ever spent. Well, not really, because they're actually paper. The water's just going to peel them right off. But they cover every single hole that is in the top of there from where they had all the hand railing. It looks okay for now. We'll see how far we go with it later. Another project is to kind of realign the windshield. If you can see that, the up and down cross member where the little black latch is, that's kind of crooked in there, so I got to realign the windshields a little bit, just loosen some stuff off. And then if you look inside, there's those little posts, those aluminum posts there on top of the gauge cluster. I'm going to put those in here to keep this from moving. That was loose too, so I'm going to that's one of today's projects. So that, resealing those anchor points for the tow rope in the back. We're going to work on putting this piece of wood in here for our spacer I was showing you the other day. I'm going to glue and screw that in. Now we have something for the turnbuckle bolts to compress against, to hold the top of the engine. We might even put 2 more turnbuckles inside the box to these anchor bolts to keep the bottom really tight against, like, just to give the transom support right through the box, holding the back of the box to the front of the box, and then the front of the box to the inside of the boat to just hold it super, super strong. So that's it. That's the Tempest. 1986 or 87, somewhere around there. We like it. We know it's not real fancy or anything, but we don't care because we don't have $200,000 to waste on a brand new boat that's just going to sit in the shop for most of its life. We're not millionaires. But we do love the Lord, and He blesses us every day with something cool. So that's her. And then another project as well. Depending on how we like this sucker, we might replace all the upholstery in here with like a gray and orange, I'm thinking. And then one project for today too is to take out this whole gauge cluster and get that reupholstered, because it's just covered in grease or dirt or whatever, and I washed it and it doesn't come off. Somebody's greasy paws, just like on this right above the racing stripes. It's just filthy. But to peel all this off and to reupholster it, I'm not sure how much money it'll cost to get done. My neighbor does upholstery. It's pretty quick and easy to do anytime. So I want to do the steering column area, because that way it's done and I don't have to mess with it later to take the steering column all out to do it. But the rest of these panels are pretty quick and easy to do. Same thing with the seat, and then this big platform mattress part that goes over here will get done at the same time. I'm thinking gray and orange, and then a blue carpet, and then blue bottom carpet, just the same as it was. And then the outside of the boat, I'm thinking same blue. My neighbor has actually blue paint just like this. He painted his sailboat almost an identical color, so we could just spray some new paint on there. And the rest of the boat is in good shape. So let me know what you think we should do, or if you have any ideas or thoughts. Hopefully you like these videos. Please comment, and we'll go from there. There should be, there's all the old dyed gas. Looks pretty darn clean, yeah, but it's hard to tell how old it is. So we're dumping it out. We're gonna make sure the tank's nice and clean inside, so when we put it back in, we don't have any issues. It smells pretty normal. So looks pretty good. Oh yeah, this is gonna be fun to watch right here. Yeah, I suppose if we talk really slow in our videos, then when we put it on high speed to make these clips a little bit shorter, you'll be able to see us work really fast, but we'll be talking normal. There's a brain buster for you. How does that work? How come when you put your videos on high speed, your voices change to like squirrels, Chippendale squirrels, not the dancers? Anyways, we'll get back to it. Okay, so another little handyman secret. We used a lot of glue for our spacer. We had to put 2 spacers into one there because it wasn't quite thick enough. But we made sure that it's a slight bit, well, it's pretty much exactly the same. You don't want it to be too thick, because then the spacer when it compresses together, the outside plate to the inside plate, this will cause it to not seal properly. So it's actually pretty much identical thickness, if not a little bit thicker, but we should have gone a little bit thinner, but should be fine. It's like a hair, like just a hair, if any. Actually, it could be thinner once you compress it, but it is wood, so it will compress. So we glued these two pieces together, and then I put glue here, and you're supposed to put glue on the mating surfaces, on both mating surfaces, but it's hard to get the glue at that angle. So a little tip, just take your glue and smear it on your piece of wood like this. Just like this, right? And then you just smear it on right where you know that that block is going. Okay, so there's our little spacer plate for in between. The rest of this is going to be filled with spray foam. We'll just drill a hole in from the top on the back side after everything's done, and then just fill this all in with spray foam just to take up the rest of the space. But this plate here is basically where the top motor mount bolts are going to go through, right in this area. And yeah. Alright, here's another little free tip for you. This bolt right here, it has a little bit of glue on it, so the nut's not coming off real easy. I gotta jump inside the boat and have another guy come along to help me unloosen that nut. Most of you are probably smart enough to figure this out, but instead of getting another guy, or instead of jumping inside the boat and struggling with my long arms to go in and out at the same time, I just use this little pry bar, push on there. That gives me enough tension. If this works, it might not, because there might be just a little too much glue on there, but just enough tension to hold the bolt. Let's just see. Maybe this is a good work, but we'll try it. You just got to keep working at it. See, if there's only you and there's not two guys in the shop, you can use little tricks like this to get that nut off without having to phone a friend or jump inside the boat. So I did it like that. Now what I'll do is take that nut or that bolt to the wire grinder and just clean the glue off, and then the screws will, or the nuts will go onto these bolts real easy and come off real easy, finger tight. Just a little bit of tension helps you to kind of act like a wrench on the other side of your plywood. You can see it's a long ways for me to reach on both sides at the same time.
That's for the fuel tank? Okay. Yeah. I wonder if I should be worrying about that neck fall off. It's not, I'll never get it in the hole.
That's what we were checking inside the fuel tank to make sure that it's not plugged or full of dirt. See the little fuel strainer there? That's the pickup tube for inside the tank. Now that we got it out, we want to check stuff like that.
So just put that white tube on there, right? Right.
And also, I forgot to mention here is that we're grinding the tips of the screws so we don't destroy our belt sander, because this is screwed from the back side as well. There's a screw here, here. So I'm just grinding the tips off so when I sand I don't destroy my belt. Okay, so there you have it. Sand this all off. It's nice and smooth. This is all bottomed out with these bolts. Everything's super tight here. And this is smooth, so that'll still be a good seal for sure. Well, we're starting to learn the history of this old boat. So we know that this tank was cut out, the floor was cut out, because they wouldn't from factory make crappy cuts like that. and that, and then patch it all in just to put the fuel tank. No, they would have put the fuel tank in, then put the wood in on top of it, and it would never come out type idea. So what we're thinking what happened is, because on that corner down there, we looked at the fuel tank and there's some patchwork that's been done on the fuel tank, and then on the bottom side of the boat there's also some patchwork been done on the fiberglass. So we're thinking someone ran into a rock, cracked it, it started leaking, they took it out of the water right away, cut out all this wood, pulled the tank out. They must have noticed some fuel leak in the back of the boat, cut the tank out, removed it, patched the tank, did the fiberglass on the outside at the same time, and then they put in this and this are still in really good shape. There's no wood rot there at all whatsoever, so they did a good patch job on the bottom of the boat. This fiberglass is all nice and solid. There's no damage to the rest of the wood, and we're thinking probably what happened is they did all that patchwork early on in its life, fixed it up, fixed the fuel tank, and then eventually the motor probably went on it, or the leg or something. Apparently the OMC motors are very expensive to fix and very hard to find parts that are not all worn out because they're quite old. So we're guessing that's what happened, was they just turfed the boat, because there's no sign of any water entry at the front of the boat where the patchwork was done. It all looks really good. So we're just going to leave that the way it is. We're going to patch this section, patch that section, maybe cut out a little bit in there, maybe a little bit in there, and patch that. And then I'll cut in a little bit in the back there just to see. You're going to cut inspection holes right in this area for where the brackets come down, so we can put bolts on each side. And then we can inspect the wood to see if it's rotten back there. But even if it is, we're just going to leave it, because this fiberglass is all super solid, right? And then we'll just fiberglass probably up to like here, because the bench is right about here. So we can fiberglass right up to here, make sure that's all nicely, so then when people do come in here, make sure it's all nicely sealed, so when people do come in and sit down in the back seat and water's running off their swimming trunks or whatever, it's just going to go into the back of the boat, and then we'll be able to drain it out the back. So there will be no more wood rot on this thing when we're operating it, that's for sure. Yeah, so next job, take this out, get it reupholstered, and fix these windshield brackets, and then go from there and see what we can do with the glove box area, and cut the hose, cut the top off that hose, fuel hose, so we can get it onto the pipe of the spout of the fuel tank easier. Alright, so what we've done here is put our brackets in the spot we know we want them, traced them out. Now we know where the holes are going to go. We can drill that hole for that one. We can drill these 3 holes for here. We're going to drill a 6-inch hole right there and a 6-inch hole right there that we can put a plug on, so keep the water out. And that'll be our inspection plate for our bolts, for our anchors, and we'll go right through the fiberglass. Cut some foam out, put a 3/4 inch board or a couple of 4 big washers on the other side. So it'll be like that. Trace it out so we know exactly where they're going. And just have to drill some holes, put some plates on the outside, and this is pretty much a piece of cake. Like I said, we'll just plug these. We just have to cut that out with a reamer or whatever, die grinder. Here goes nothing. My yellow goes where it
Well, the drill's hot, yeah. I'm sorry, keep it right.
Take a little tiny drill. Just drill a few spots in there, and they might just allow that to cut a little better. Ready? Like, you go through the screw. What size that thing?
Yeah, just drill a bunch of holes all the way around.
And that's all kind of
That Dremel bit that we used to do.
This one is fine. This one goes. That color goes up and it stays up. Design. Should have had so there's a set of teeth on one side of that blade and the other. You get the first one. That thing whole box on. That was very cool.
Okay, so where our anchors are going to go down here, we've got about 2 inches of thick material here. It's nice and dry, there's no punkiness there at all, so we know that's good and strong. We just have to cut out a little bit of this foam here, and we can drill holes through there, and we can put a plate on the backside, but I don't think we need to. Probably just some really good washers, and we'll just plug this off. Do the same thing on this side. And this is how thick this material is. That's how thick the floor is. And it's all nice, good, solid material. So. Okay, so my brother and I got these pieces in. Now that rotten wood is out, we got it supported underneath by 2x2 that goes all the way back to here. And then underneath by plywood that covers about a 1 foot square. Bunch of screws, bunch of glue. 2x2 all the way up to here. The rest is good. We're just going to put a bunch of more screws along the top there just to re-secure it, but that's all solid. So this side's good. You can walk on it, it's super solid. Same with this side, super solid. Just have to put a little bit of glue. Now we just have to cut this piece, that piece, screw them to the 2x2. The tank will slip in, spray foam will push it all tight. This will be all fiberglassed along the bottom, right? So it'll be fiberglass along the bottom on each one, holding that plywood, plus the tank and the foam will hold it there as well. It'll be secured to that 2x2 underneath here. Super tight, super secure. Then a nice 1/4 inch plywood right across the whole floor, back to here, about here somewhere. And then any water that comes into the boat from the front will just go right off the back of that 1/4 inch plywood and into this trough. And then we can drain it out the back. That'll eliminate all that pooling of water up here where, you know, I don't know why they didn't do that in the 80s or 70s or whatever. They make fiberglass boats now, but should have been fiberglass right throughout. And then you just take the tank out whenever you wanted type thing, just pull the floor up. But that's the way they did it back then, and we're gonna have to fix it a little bit. So it's all good. The rest of it's super, super solid. So basically those 2 plates, and then we're also working on the brackets. I got the holes drilled on the aluminum angle iron. So that will be bolted up permanently pretty quick. And then I just have to drill in the drill press. You can see on the bench there, right over there, the angle irons clamped together. So you just drill 2 at once. The drill press over there. And then come back here, put those in, and then we have these brackets right here fit in here like this, right? And that's gonna come, just gonna squish some of that foam out of the way, and that's gonna sit right there. So that'll be on the inside of the stringer, clamped directly through the side of the boat. We'll just use bolts, and same thing on the other side, and then those will be in permanently. And once that's done, we basically just have to fiberglass or finish the bottom of the box, put the top in, mount it all on the boat, check how it all fits with the motor, see if we're happy, and then from there, yeah, those would work. Those would work perfect. Let's see. See those? Are those lag bolts big enough? Yeah, I think those would work pretty good. And then after that, it's basically just fit everything. And once we know that the motor is all good, we can fiberglass the boat, or the box, fiberglass the inside. That'll be all done. Send the upholstery off, a little bit of upholstery. Find some plugs for these two holes. And the one that will be on the bottom of the box, they're all 6-inch, so they can all be the same type of sealed plug. And find some steering linkage. And the rest of the stuff we got here. Basically just throw it all together and get it running.
I think those would be big enough.
Probably, yeah. We're working here. Just joking. Just joking. Bed needs to be sharpened. No doubt about that. If you're tired of wasting money on drill bits, buy a drill doctor. You can sharpen your bits. It's way easier and quicker and cheaper than buying them, and much simpler than sharpening them on a grinder. This one is good for up to 1/2 inch. Set the depth of your bit. Tighten it up. Turn it on. Pretty good.
Very good.
You sound like Uncle Ken.
Huh?
You sound like Uncle Ken. Very good. Okay, let's see if that bit sharp enough now. I need some WD-40. Where's the WD-40 around here? Anyone see any?
I got some at my house.
Okay, well that doesn't help me.
Well, I'll bring it for you.
Okay, you want to? super hard steel.
Yeah.
Does not cut with the drill bit. And I sharpened it too. That's still good. Maybe I'll start with a smaller bit. Okay, so that didn't go as planned. I did sharpen that, and usually that fixes the problem instantly, so that must be hardened steel. We just found it out in the back 40, so I'm going to drill a little bit smaller. Usually you can just go right through with one swipe with the drill press, not so much with the hand drill. But drill press for sure. Let's try a smaller bit, and then we'll upsize the bigger one. Shushukin. Quarter inch, so let's try 1/64. See how we like that. Pretty joking. Yeah.
Is it alright to do stainless with regular metal?
Don't see a problem with it. Kind of defeats the purpose of having stainless. I guess my drill doctor needs a new cutting wheel. Sharpening like you used to. Been on the decline. I'll try it again with the 1/2 inch bit here and see how it sounds. Might do better drop this time. Try sharpening it one more time. No, but seriously, you see right here? The drill doctor? If you look inside there, that's a diamond cutting stone. It's made specifically for sharpening these drill bits. When I bought it brand new, it worked amazing. I think it needs a new cutting stone or maybe some adjustments because I sharpened a lot of bits and obviously that 1/2 inch did not turn out so well. But we'll see. So you take your bit, stick it in here. This is this little tool here that goes inside the machine here. Basically just aligns your bit. So what you do is you take it, you put it in like that. You can see, sorry, you can see the tip And basically you push it in and it just spins. Let's go back a little farther. Anyways, you put it in and it just kind of aligns the bit for you. So then when you put it in the machine, you leave it slightly loose. Put it in the machine and it's got these alignment markers. One's for one side of the bit and one's for the other side of the bit. And then it kind of has like a teetering action where it sharpens the right angles. I don't know how it works. I never really figured it out. But you basically push it in like this. That sets the bit. You take it back out. You twist it to the side. So do it like that first. Twist it to the side first. Set the bit. That. Now you tighten this collar up. That keeps your bit aligned to the right depth. And then you just put it in and you just turn it. It goes like the sound effects. You do that a couple times on each side of the bit and it usually works really good. I just sharpened that 1/2 inch again. We'll try it again and see how it works. If not, I might need to use a different bit. It's a pretty cheap, I think it was like 250 bucks, but it's like $400 for a set of drill bits, and these guys want way too much money for these cheap drill bits. They break half the time. You can sharpen a brand new one for a broken one. Okay, so that's not working. Again. So what I'm going to do this time is go one side, a couple sizes smaller. Sometimes just want to cut certain steel as easy as others, depending on the hole size that I've already piloted. Let's see how this works. I'm trying to get this job done quick, so I'm kind of
I want to trim off what I put up there for hangers so I don't walk into it and cause my face up.
That's a little tighter. What it should sound like. Oh my goodness. It's gonna suck. probably just destroying my bits. Well, I'm gonna have to try something different. I'll get back to you. When in doubt, ream it out. Apparently that's pretty hard steel. Must be a leaf spring or something crazy. Super heat treated, made it super hard, very brittle, super hard. So I'm gonna have to ream it out. It's working. Probably gonna have to do all of the holes, all the other 6 holes like this. Always wear your safety glasses when reaming. I once had a piece of metal embedded in my eyeball because even though I had safety glasses on, it hit my eyeball somehow. Plus it gets in your clothes and all that. Those little shavings, very itchy. Very annoying. Where's my bolts? Alright. Sounds like a banshee. Never want to use this steel again. Yourself off, dust, fibers, insulation, whatever, dirt. Just be very careful. It's the best way to clean yourself off. If you don't know how to use an air gun without piercing your skin and getting into your blood veins, then there's something wrong. You shouldn't even get shot. Great way to get the dirt off anything too. Dust. And all this crap. Light that up instead of blowing it all onto the shop floor. That's all wet. This is dry. All that fine, shiny stuff. clean the drill press up so that no oil everywhere.
Yeah, tape measure.
Let's go see how this sucker fits. Yeah, tape measure.
Now you gotta re-drill those.
Huh? I already did. Oh yeah, I have to do those, yeah. Let's see what you're saying. What size is that again? Oh, let's take the half there. Two lock washers, like it. I like your two lock washer idea. Great plan.
2 lock washers?
Yeah, use two lock washers.
Where?
Two lock. Oh, one's flat. Look like the lock washer.
I'm not sure which side is the flat on. The lock washer side or the other side?
Doesn't matter. Either way, they're going to tighten up. Man, we have to lose the most randoms. That drilling tonight is going easy for me. Seems to me like you don't finish drilling with the right size bit, then it just doesn't want to catch the edge of the cutting edge of the bit. This aluminum is really soft. Now I'll jump up to the 1/2 inch and see what that one does. Yeah, that's better. Okay. Probably. Seriously. I think 1/2 inch might be too small. Let's see what it says. That time she went. It's still pretty sharp. There we go. Okay. Bracket on here. See how it fits. Perfect. Good job. Put the bolts. Looking good. Now we're getting somewhere. Okay. Sucking tight. We use all kinds of different products here. John Deere steel from 1945 that Beetle Pulsar had. All kinds of good stuff. Those are nice and tight. Just have to drill these out. Drill those bad boys out on the sides. I put lag bolts on the inside. These pieces blocks of wood. They'll sit. I'm just going to cut them out a bit more. And then that will be perfect. Okay, so here's another little issue that I'm going to fix. This it's a light for when you're at night, I believe. You just pop this into the. I'll show you. This pops into this little hole right here. I'm sure you've seen it on many boats. Connects to your wiring and then gives you a light so when you're driving at night people can see you on the water. I think that's what it's for. This one looks like someone hit it. Not very straight. So what I'm doing here is cutting off the top here is I think epoxied in there, glued in there. But the bottom I was able to take a screw out. There's a light bulb. Here's the cover. So it's on there like that. And this was sitting on the end. So I ended up cutting it off. Here I actually had this inside here and a screw was holding it in, but it was a peen mark in here that was like with a screwdriver or a pick or whatever, punch, and it actually impregnated into the metal and caused this to not be able to pull this out. So I just use a hacksaw blade, cut into the aluminum at an angle without touching the plastic and wrecking it. Cut it at an angle, and I was able to peel it away and then pull this out, cut the wires. I got enough lead on the wires where I can solder them back together. And then now I'm just going to cut into the tube here from the bend down, because I don't want to remove this because it's glue. I'll just wreck it. So I'm just going to make it short. It'll look cooler and it'll be way less easy to break. So just from here to here, I'm just going to cut off. I just have to make sure cutting with the hacksaw blade that I don't go into the wires, because if I cut the wires off here, then I have to keep cutting this shorter to get enough lead to. But if I cut it without touching the wires all around, then I'm good. I have lots of wire to work with. There we go. So this is short. Lots of wire to work with. As you can see, I didn't do any damage to the wire. So I can keep using that and don't have to go looking for a new one. Progress report on the bottom of the transom, the cover. As you can see how much of a bend we got going here now, using the water technique. As you can see, it's bending without breaking. There's a few tiny little, fractures in the wood, like right there you can see one. But nothing major, and that'll work perfect once it's got to go about another inch. So actually it's probably about a quarter, actually it's probably about a half an inch, I think, because with this measurement from here to here is 4 inches on this, but I don't actually have it. I should just find the proper straight edge here. Use this thing right here, this will work. One sec, bear with me, please. Oh yeah. So to measure from here, from there to the how does that work? Oh yeah, sorry. So from here to the bottom of that bar is 2 inches. So now I'm going to take this and I'm going to bring it over here, and I'm going to do kind of the exact same situation on the bottom of the transom. And I'll measure so I can pretty much go right to the same points. And that's about there. Right. Check your angle, and then measure from this point here up to the bottom of that thing. Should be pretty similar. And it's 2.5. So we got another half an inch of bending to go. By tomorrow that sucker will be most likely right where we want it. Okay, so last night I didn't quite have enough time to do another video. It was getting late and we were tired. So I'm just giving a wrap up of what we finished there yesterday and what we're going to do later today. Just one quick job. It's Sunday, so we're going to take a break. spend some time in the Word, listen to some sermons. Okay, so this is the transom box. It's upside down. This will be today's project. So we'll be putting the bottom plate right there. You can see it's got almost perfectly the right bend. We'll be putting that on the bottom of the box. The top of the box is already done. We showed you that already. So that can get screwed on whenever we want. We'll put the bottom box on. Throw the pod on the back here before we put the top. We don't need to put the top cover on just yet, but we can put the bottom cover on, bolt up the box. We also have to, once we put the cover onto here, we'll have to just take out probably about a 1/2 inch of material of the box and this 2x6, just for there's enough room to get the plug out, because that'll be sitting like right about there, the bottom of the box that's there. So they take a little bit out so that we can unscrew the plug to drain any water out of the boat. I got to replace these 3 screws with stainless ones when I redid the plug the other day. So that job's pretty much done. Fixed up the night light. I don't know what you call it. I guess it's a night light. Like I showed you there yesterday. The soldering I did on the wiring. The light bulb's good. That wire goes straight to wherever the battery will be, and the rest of the ignition for the engine. So that's basically all inside this box. The throttle control, ignition wires, battery wires, fuel shut off. Here's your wiring harness for your engine. So we'll tie that into there somehow, and all the lights. And fuel tank is all ready to go back in. And other than that, the back spacer's done. So basically when we put the bottom plate on, we'll let it glue overnight, and tomorrow we'll put it on the back of the boat, suck it down with all the bolts that we need to make sure it's super tight. Then we can put the engine onto it before we fiberglass it, so that we know we got the perfect fitment and the adjustment of the height on the right in that area, the height of the back of the transom, because we need to make sure that the anti-ventilation plate right there, this is your anti-ventilation plate that keeps the water from pushing out. Like if you're getting too high in the water, it'll just create a cavitation there. You don't want that. So we'll put that on, get that all fitted up. We know that the inside bracketry here is done. This is the finished product for the knees. Instead of going with wood, we just went with 2-inch angle iron and then a 2.5 inch aluminum angle iron. That's all going to get bolted through here. This is where our turnbuckle is going to be pulling against. We might put another plate up here, but yeah, the turnbuckle will be pulling through on this aluminum plate to transfer weight through the box into the top of the transom. Through the existing transom into the right above the box lid, and then through the back plate and into the 2 top motor mount bolts. So that'll be sucking that tight. And then these 2 bottom holes here, we'll most likely put a couple turnbuckles going through. See, there were those right below these holes here. And those will go through the bottom of the box. So that'll suck the top and the bottom of the box super tight and secure to the back of the boat. Then you throw all the extra fiberglass on there and it really strengthens it up. We know that this plate's going to be good. We know that our brackets here are good. I'll show you with the flashlight here. We basically just put a 3/4 inch board in here. That's what we were doing all the work cutting this out yesterday. Sorry about the lighting. Yeah, better like that, I guess. So you can see what's going on there. Big flat washer there. And we have inspection holes here, and then one on the box as well right here, just to check your mounting bolts. Most people wouldn't do this. They would leave this fiberglass in, but we can at least inspect for water in there, and we can seal that off. There's not going to be any water getting in the back of this boat when we're driving it, because if there is, any little bit will get down into here. So we also got to put a few more screws in this rail right here from this section. Some in this section on this side. But we already re-screwed all this with new screws and glued them. Screwed this side, glued them. My brother put in this board yesterday and this one here, so that's all solid. We did these way more solid. We can put our bench seat back on top of that and not be worried about it breaking apart. Fill in all these cracks with glue so it's nice and strong. Won't be any flexibility there. And then we'll put a 2x4 underneath here, or some sort of backing, so we can screw this floor down here, and we can screw the new sheet that we're going to be putting in here over top of the fuel tank. That'll screw that nice down, nice and tight. And we'll also put that along this side. And we're going to put this plate in here. It's pretty snug. We'll have to pound it in when we get it, but it fits in there pretty good. So the fuel tank will sit back into its original location, just a couple inches farther forward. Our plywood will sit on top. I think it's 70 inches long, and this is 71, so it'll be about here, somewhere in this area. And this is 70 and a half. The plywood will sit on top of this. It'll sit on top of the 2x2s that are here, that are above the fuel tank. We'll put foam underneath the fuel tank. And then we'll put spray foam all the way around the edges to keep it nice and snug in there. And then we'll support this plate back here onto the side mounts where we have the 2x2 and this 3/4 inch ply. So that'll hold that in snug. The fuel tank shouldn't take long. I'll might get a new hose, not sure yet. Have to see how that hose goes back onto the fuel tank spigot that's coming through this hole right there. It's really hard to get off, so it'd be hard to get on, but let you know how that goes. And other than that, we just have to put a couple plugs on the tops of these, put the fuel tank in, fill the floor back in, and then we'll put a little 1/4 inch subfloor screwed all the way around the top, right into those where the vacuum cleaner is and underneath the driver's seat. Suck that all down nice and tight. That way any water will run right back into this area and out the back of the boat instead of flooding all that wood there and making it worse, because it's all pretty good still, but we want to make sure it's nice and tight. And put new carpet over top of that. So that'll be the inside of the boat done, and that'll be the outside of the boat. And then once we know where the motor's sitting, we can start wiring that all into the steering column area. We'll find a new steering wheel and steering column most likely. And then fiberglass the box, and then put the box on and seal it and get the thing running. Probably, I would say, next couple weeks we'll have her done. So that's it so far. Hope you enjoyed the videos, and we'll let you know what we're doing next.